All right, guys, we're here, episode 1, The Hustle Behind, and I have 2 guests with me today. They are local Idaho entrepreneurs, both of them born and raised in Idaho. And they happen to be good friends of mine. We have a lot of things in common and a lot of things not so much in common. So let me introduce you to them. I got Brad Camphouse and Morgan Peterson here today. If you guys want to tell us a little bit about yourselves, you can take as long as you want.
You go first, Brad.
You want me to go first? Well, one of the things that we don't have in common is I do not ride bicycles. I ride motorcycles because they can push my fat around. Born and raised here, yep, from Rexburg. Went to Madison High School, graduated in 99. I moved to Chicago for a few years and moved to Salem, Oregon for a few years and just kind of bouncing around, trying to find out what it was I wanted to do in life. Figures I'm 45 years old this year and still don't know exactly what I want to do in life. So we're doing real estate and making duck donuts and getting ready to buy into a cosmetology place and building houses. It's just what we do.
Sounds like you're doing a lot for somebody that doesn't know what they want to do.
Yeah, right. Just trying to throw mud at the wall and hope something sticks.
So I'm Morgan Peterson. Again, grew up here, Idaho Falls, East Idaho area, and family, 5 kids, and been in real estate for 2 decades, and because of that, I've seen the light and the blessing of investing into real estate. So between that, we do residential, multifamily, and commercial, and everything in between that. Also doing some partnering with some developers and projects and things like that. Run a real estate team, and life's good.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. So if we go back to when you guys were younger, because you guys are both on your 40s, right? Just like me. We're older now. Anyways, if you go back to when you were younger, when did you realize that maybe you wanted to work for yourself, or you want to be an entrepreneur rather than work for somebody else?
So I've always wanted to. I've always struggled, and I think it's maybe ADHD or restlessness or whatever it is, but I've always struggled with authority. And my dad was an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And so if I was to tell my kids what I did today, and I was like, I got to hang out with my friends Carlos and Brad and do a podcast. And then, I went and hung out at my office with my team and had a team. Like, they don't get it. And they come and they're like, man, you guys just hang out and talk. And that's how I felt he was. But he built a lot of connections and things like that. And he had a really, really cool life. And so I liked that. But back to when I knew it was for me, I took a lot of direction from my dad. And I did a lot of different, everything. When I was in my teens, I was a dishwasher at a restaurant, and then I was a busboy. And
what was your dishwasher job? We have that in common. That's my first job.
I was at Chili's.
Chili's?
Mm-hmm.
You want to guess mine?
And so
it was here in Idaho.
Where was it?
North Highway Cafe.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Yeah, that was my first job.
That's very cool. So then I got into telemarketing, and I got into telemarketing because everybody who was doing telemarketing was making a lot of money in where I was doing this at. So I was doing it in Idaho Falls, and I moved to St. George. And anyway, I moved back to Idaho Falls, and oddly enough, it was my 21st birthday that things were, I was celebrating my 21st pretty solid, and I called in sick, and I thought that I could sneak in and grab my check because I also had no money. And so I snuck in my office, and I got caught, and I actually got fired on my 21st birthday. And I remember being mortified to tell my dad, and he just said, son, you're unemployable. He's like, you're going to have to just do something on your own. He's like, and that's okay. And he made it that it was like okay and a good thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, congratulations, but he's like, it's gonna be really hard, and you're gonna learn a lot of things, but it was that 20, and I've never had a job since my 21st birthday, and so anyway, that when you say that story always makes it, because people are like, well, what'd you know that you wanted to work for yourself?
And in the fact that Dad was total mentor, and we both have lost our dad in recent years. Like, how long ago for you? Like 5 or 6?
5, yeah.
And I'm 3. And we actually started hanging out like about a year and a half ago, whatever it was. And I don't know how long we sat in the ocean in Costa Rica and just talked about how cool our dads were and how they meant so much and in our lives and how we grew up. But mine is the literal polar opposite. My dad has not one entrepreneurial bone in his body. Like there was none of that whatsoever. He was super old school. He would just work, right? And I remember him making me stay in like the 5th grade, and I was helping him in the garden, and he said, there's one thing that nobody will do better than us, and nobody will outwork us. So you are going to work, and you are going to use the shovel until your hands are blistered. And then when they're blistered, you'll go put gloves on and you'll keep going until we're done. And so I remember like crying in the backyard because I wanted to go play with my friends, but the work wasn't done. So of course that made me work 10 times harder. And then when I said, hey Dad, I grew really fast. So in the 9th grade, between the 8th and 9th grade, I went from 5'4" to 6'4" in one summer. So it was like 4 months and a huge growth spurt. And I was 121 pounds and 6'4", so super skinny. And I wanted new basketball shoes. And I was like, Dad, hey, I need some Nike basketball shoes. But now I wear a size 13 shoe. And before I wore like a 6 or something great. Like, right. It's like everything just grew like crazy. And he's like, well, if you want those nicer shoes, you better get a job and go buy them. And so I went and was mowing lawns and shoveling snow and moving pipe, anything that I could do within the vicinity of the neighborhood, which we lived out in a place called Burton, which is just outside of Rexburg. But I would just work and work and work. And then I got a job in the spud harvest. So I bought my first car. So I bought my first rifle. All of those things. My dad was like, nope, I am not giving it to you. You just have to figure it out. And so I almost kind of resented it at that point for a long time, all the way up until about my 21st birthday. But I was in a totally different space. I was living in Boise playing rugby. Didn't care if I had a job or not. I think I went through 17 jobs in like a year, maybe a year and a half. It was almost a job a month because I didn't care. And then fast forward until I met my wife and we built a house, and I was standing on the back deck of our new house that I had built and thinking to myself, why in the world am I just working? I was a delivery driver at the time. Why am I just working doing this? Like, I don't make squat for money. I think that year I made like $36,000 or $32,000. And I actually called another real estate agent here in the valley, Chalmers Haas. So I called him because he had helped us sell our first house, and was like, hey, how hard is it to get into real estate? And he's like, not. Like, you just go take the class and do it. So I talked to my boss, jumped in, had my real estate license, and what does it take, 6-8 weeks? And then I sold back to back houses and made more money in that time frame than I had in the previous 2.5 years. And I have to go after this. And so it wasn't like an exact moment that I thought that I was going to change and work for myself, but there was an exact moment as, man, I have got to do something better to be better, because working through the system, I was already a manager at the place that I was the delivery driver at, and I wasn't going to go up any further in that profession. And I thought, I even had tried to start my own little online business where I was selling like handles for cabinets. Anyway, after I sold those first 4 or 5 houses and made more money than I had in the previous 2 years, that was the moment that I thought, okay, I can do this. And then I jumped into it and quickly realized, holy smokes, I just quit everything. We don't have insurance. We got to pay for all this stuff now. And had to go to work again and really work at lead gen and try and dig my way out of that.
So when you talk about that, it makes me think of this thing that we all know, but to kind of put it into context, the cool thing is you learned a trait at an early age to work hard.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's Duck Donuts or whether it's developing or real estate or whatever it is, like the cool thing is if you are a hard worker that shows up on time, you'll always have a job.
Yeah.
Just that work ethic.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, like you could walk into anything, clothing store, furniture store, anywhere. And if you just said, like, I have zero skills, I have zero background, or I have, you know what I mean?
But I want to learn.
But I want to learn, and I'll show up to work 20 minutes early every single day to learn, and I'm going to be your hardest worker. If those were the only two things, three, willing to learn, I'm quite certain that you'll never, ever struggle to find a job.
Yeah, because you can apply it to just about anything.
I shouldn't say struggle, but you'll always be able to find a job.
Yeah, for sure. And it's exactly right. So like Duck Donuts was going under, and I ran these numbers 2 days ago. In the entire month of November, they were like $260 a day or something that it was bringing in, and then they had to pay their bills out of that. It ended up being like $7,400, or I can't remember the exact numbers. The one number that stands out to me is a 282% increase.
That's crazy.
Since November 28th to 2 days ago, which is just over 6 weeks, we have a 282% increase in sales.
But probably by doing what Morgan was saying, yeah, right? Showing up every day, constantly being there.
It was for the first 4 to 5 weeks of those 6 weeks, I was there every single day, and I was there for 16 hours a day, like an hour and a half before we opened, hour and a half after we closed, to make sure it was all cleaned, to make sure it was all perfect, so that I understood the process start to finish, so that when things start to happen like they are currently, I've got all the employees put in place. But sometimes, like, people get sick or somebody drops the ball somewhere, I can't rely on them to do absolutely everything. And what this, for instance, was the GM had gotten sick, and we didn't have anybody to open the store. And he called me. He's like, "Hey, none of the shift leads can go. I don't know what to do." Like, it's all right, I'll cover it. And so I ran in there, opened the store, and when all of the employees come in, they were like, "Whoa, what are you doing here? Are you the owner?" Yeah, but it's not about me being the owner. It's about making sure that the company is running the way it needs to be run. Because if we're not making and selling donuts, nobody has a job here, right? Including myself. So it's about that and about being the hardest worker. And then I can do everything that they can do, right? They're like, "Oh, you'll decorate donuts. Oh, you'll sweep and mop the floor." I thought owners don't do that.
If the owner's here doing that, why shouldn't I? If I'm
right. And then all of a sudden, the one young kid, he's probably 16 years old, he grabs the mop and he's like, where should I go with this? Right. And that bleeds over, and they start to see that, and then they see that I'm willing to do it with them, and then see that I'm the one cutting their checks. And I try and bring, $20 in every now and again in my pocket. So if I see someone doing a really good job, I just, "Hey, I appreciate you." Give them an extra 20 spot, and
just a little incentive there, and just keep them motivated.
It's not something that I'm going to give them every single time, but if I see it, I'll reward it, like immediately. And I learned that from my days at Pick Me Up, and dealing with younger kids. They need that instant gratification, because the internet and everything that's at our fingertips, they need that quick dopamine shot, I think, because now they look at 6 weeks like it's been 2 years.
We're just wired different.
Yeah,
very much.
We've been here for forever. We barely starting. Geez, I don't even have a month worth of total sales to see what's one from the other than what was happening before. And we're in the slow season, so I don't even know what the fast season's going to look like, right? Like, so
Yeah.
we might have to work even harder. Maybe we have to hire more people, but the willingness to just show up. And I actually wrote a post about that on Facebook. I love Nike, right? Because they say, just do it, right? There's enough. All you got to do is get up and go do it.
It's simple, but there's a lot to it too.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Because if you just get it in motion, then things are going to happen.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to start it.
Right. And this is years and years of me going through my own self-help type things, Think and Grow Rich. I'm rereading that book right now. The Go-Giver, but from back in our early real estate days, which is like putting your mind in a place to be successful is the first step, right? Because you can be sitting on the couch and have a bad attitude and never get off the couch. But a second you flip your mind into wanting to get out and do something, then that's when you start, which is, I'm glad you brought this up in the first place, right? Because it brings us full circle conversation. When was the moment that you decided to go and be an entrepreneur and to go and do it? Well, you have to have your mind right to do it first. Because if you're thinking, I can't ever do that, I'll never do that, there's no way, then you're not going to do it.
Or if you think that it's going to be easy, right? It's just, I'm going to jump into it and things are just going to happen. So I think that takes me back to that work ethic and what your parents taught you, as far as like, you just got to show up, you got to do the job, you got to be there early, you got to stay late. It makes all the difference. Touch back on something that you both mentioned, but since you brought it up, I'm going to bring it up. You have both lost your father. I'm lucky enough that I still have him around here. What would your advice be to somebody that still has their dad here with them, knowing that you're, unfortunately your dad is not with you guys here anymore?
I think your relationship, like I look back a lot and I wish I had more grace. I think you gotta have more grace. Like my dad, I can look and honestly say he was right 90% of the time. But there is a lot of dads who are not right 90% of the time. And sometimes there is kids who are smarter than they are, understand more, maybe accelerated, past of whatever point. But I think that if you have grace and you just were patient, and just always have a solid relationship. So, with my dad, I mean, it's, I would say, him and I were really close. He was always included. I was always included in everything he did. And so I think, just being able to hang out with him, but I wish I would have had more grace or just, more patience to just listen and then just talk about other, just anything and everything, but just have that patience to not, feel like everything's just such a drag or so, mundane, to listen or just to, I guess, hear what they were saying. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I think that that's probably what you miss the very most. It's not a lot of, the lessons being taught. I think that all comes with just being patient and listening and having that grace. And I mean, with my dad, he was very well accomplished, and everything that I do now, I mean, I hear or I just think of things that he's taught me every single day. But I do know that there's a lot of people who are like, man, I accelerated or grew past or, maybe in success wise, but you still always have a dad. And if you have a remotely good relationship with him, you need to build that relationship. And if you don't have a relationship, you need to repair that relationship. But that's what I'd say.
I would say that's pretty close to the same. I used to call him my gray head. The reason for that is because he's wiser than I am, right? And it took me a long time to realize that he was wiser because I thought I was wiser. And he would tell me things. I'm like, sure, whatever. And I even remember later in life calling him up just to say, hey, do you remember 15 years ago when I did this? And he'd love to call me dipshit, right? Yeah, I do. Right. And I would remind him of that. And then I would just say, hey, I'm sorry. You were right. And I just figured that out on my own going through. But he knew that I needed to pound my head against the wall for a while until I figured it out myself, because I was a little stubborn and a little not wanting to learn, not wanting to listen. But he was incredibly patient with me to let me beat myself up. Right. And then when I later got into a point of leadership with, say, like the Boy Scouts, I used to run around and do some camping and help them with like their survival skills and things like that. Letting those younger kids get to the point of failure without them falling off the cliff, right? You don't want them to completely ruin themselves, but let them get to the point where they're able to listen. And once they are able to, then they're like, whoa. And you can even make it seem like they're the ones that come up with the idea. For example, I took a bunch of kids out camping and reminded them all that I'm going to teach you how to use a Dutch oven. You have to remember to bring the potatoes. Remember, you bring the potatoes, you bring the onions, you bring the meat. And of course, they're 12. Unless they go and have mom do it, they're never, ever going to remember. None of them brought food. Like almost like I think one person brought like the onions. Right. And that was it. So, of course, I went and bought all the things for this meal and stuck them in a cooler so that when they were there, I was sitting there showing them how to make it in mine. I said, well, where's yours? Well, I forgot. Knowing that they're thinking they're going to eat that I'm making. No, they're not. Because there's also inside of the cooler bologna sandwiches.
Right.
Right. So I make these Dutch oven potatoes, ribeyes. Awesome meal, especially up in the woods. And I sit there with the other leader and we eat it. And they're all like, well, what about us? And I was like, well, you guys got some caramelized onions there. Dig in. And so
to your bologna sandwiches.
And so they're over there eating. Well, they didn't know I had bologna sandwiches yet. I let them get all the way to the point where they're like, this is the worst. You know, Mr. Camphouse is a jerk. You know, he has all this good food over here, packed it up, put it back in the cooler after it was like done right. And finally I let it get all the way to the point where we're sitting around the fire getting kind of ready for bed. I was like, what'd you guys learn today? Well, we learned to bring our food. Well, it's not even about that. It's about being prepared. It's about working hard. It's about thinking through things before it happens so that you don't end up in a bad situation. I also have your back, and there's some bologna sandwiches in there, and they ate those like they were ribeyes, right? Oh, these are so good.
When
bologna sandwiches ever.
When you say that, some of the best lessons, my kids, when they go up skiing and they forget their gloves or they forget a hat.
Yeah.
Right.
Common occurrence. Yeah.
And when you ski a little bit and your hands are freaking cold, and I mean, you just remember that next time you need those gloves. And I was reading this deal and like failure is just the best teacher. And oftentimes I don't know if it's the embarrassment of failure or, to know that you failed, but it was, failure is like just such a necessity. And that's the best, way that people learn and get knowledge or gain wisdom is by failing forward and getting better. Like failure is not bad. It's just, you forget your gloves, you get cold, you remember the next time, or even us as adults. My kids say the same thing. Like, man, you leave your AirPods or you leave your gloves. And I'm like, well, like two parts of that. One, I'm old enough now that I can go replace them. But two, who wants to replace their AirPods when you lose them? Who wants to replace your, you go on a trip and you leave a charger, and who wants to go into a gas station and buy $30 crappy charger for your phone? Like, and so, that's what that reminded me of is those lessons that we learn are just usually from just failing or, something creeping up in our blind spot or having a small leak in our boat that you just got to patch so that, you notice it and you just get better at these patch jobs. So pretty soon at the end of it, you have a pretty solid boat that you can help others out.
And just talking about this whole thing is, I wish I had my dad to bounce those thoughts off of now. So I'll catch myself trying to figure out a development or going through some planning and zoning or something that is or was, I guess, outside of my realm, and trying to figure that out. And I knew he had gone through it. And I knew that as my gray head, right, he had that wisdom that I could have tapped into had he been here. And so, I miss that terribly, right?
Like a frustration and not being able to talk to him and share those
you
thoughts
just
and
can't call. Like, it's just not
get his
there
opinion.
anymore, right?
Yeah.
What I've learned on that too, Brad, is similar, but I learned, and I guess it's helped me heal a little bit. But I'm like, sometimes those big trees gotta fall so that the younger trees not growing in their shade, so they get some more light so that we can grow, right? And I used to think the same thing, and sometimes it comes up, and my dad sounds like it was a lot like yours, where it felt like he was the cheat code,
Yeah.
and you had like the combination or whatever, and it was the cheat code, and now I've learned that it's kind of nice because now I have to grow, because if I would have called him, he would have gave me the answer, or he would have gave me his advice, and I would have just done it. But I wouldn't have learned, because I mean, it was my cheat code. I would have typed it in, and I wouldn't have had to find the answer myself. And it sucks. I definitely would, I wish I had him here and I'd do anything or pay any, dollar I had. But that same thing being said, it's nice. I like being able to and it's not always fun and it's not always comfortable, but I like being able to having to figure it out myself so that I can have it. So then when you and I talk, I can give you my perspective or my experience or, what I've learned, because if I would have got it from somebody else, I've been like, nah, he told me and this is what I did and it worked, or he gave me the number to this attorney or this accountant or this professional and I called them and yeah, they got it all squared away. But then I have to talk to, you guys and build relationships and connections. And I went to lunch with a guy and it was my dad's banker. And he was like, they were really, really good friends. And then now he is back into private banking. He went and did some things, and now he's back into private banking, actually at ICCU. And we were talking, and he just said, your dad was smart enough that he went and surrounded himself with the smartest people. Yeah. And he's like, he didn't know a lot of these things, but he was always in meetings. And he's like, I'd go into meetings with attorneys or accountants or, these different people. And he's like, they were like the smartest people that, that there were. And he's like, therefore that made him smart. And so when you say that, it's kind of cool looking back on that. And I think I got to get more smart people. I got to build my own network. And then that's what I think helps others, I guess, more than just calling my cheat code.
That makes sense. But would you feel like you are your kids' cheat code at this point? Like, because 100%. Whenever, they have an issue or something, they come back to you, allowing them to fail to a certain degree. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they know that something is not going and they can't figure it out. They're going to come to you.
Yeah. I mean, I wish, in ways that they would use it more, but I do feel like, they just have to learn. I mean, I was definitely entitled 100%, but my kids are even way more entitled than what I was. And a lot of it, to me, it's not to make it easier on them. To me, it's to make it easier on me.
Yeah.
Like if I can just pay for this and just do this and not have to deal with this, then it's easier on me. Or if I can just go out and clean the garage or clean up the yard and not have to, show somebody how to use a freaking rake or, you know what I mean? And just sit, but it doesn't hurt them. Well, in the long run it does, but it hurts the both of us. Right.
But do you have that battle? And you may be different, but to me is that battle, right? It's like, do I just do this myself because it's going to be a lot easier and faster and less aggravating? Or do I get the boys or my girl to come out and help me out? And then so you have to walk them through it. And it's like I catch myself back and forth. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm just going to get this done because I don't have the time and I need to get it done.
Right.
But some other times it's like And it backfires because then I'll be like, okay, I'm excited. I'm going to teach him this. And then they come in and they're like, yeah, whatever. I don't care.
I think it always backfires, but I think in the end, it teaches them the most, right? So there's oftentimes I'm like, how do you not know how to do this? And I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, well, maybe nobody's ever taught them or showed them or the importance of it, or, like these different things. And anyway.
Well, and I think they see what we do and the fact that we just problem solve and we go out and fix it. We just do it, right? Like we're just making it happen. And I'll joke around with my kids. Like the other day, I drive that '02 Chevy, and the mechanism inside of the window broke. There's a cable in there. Never fixed one of those in my life, but it's an '02. I know it's on YouTube. Looked it up, went and bought the thing, and my boy sitting there was like, How do you know how to do that? I didn't. I looked it up, watched a YouTube video, and then just tore it and figured it out. He's like, huh. Well, what if, so I can just do that? You can do whatever you want. You just got to have the tenacity to jump out and do it. And so then just here yesterday or day before, he decided to switch rooms because there's 2 rooms above our garage, and one of them substantially smaller. And so he actually moved his stuff into the smaller room, but he couldn't get the bed through the doors because it was too big. So he Googled or looked up how to take the bed frame apart, was up there, and we could hear him doing stuff, but I didn't know he was doing all this, right? Tears his bed completely apart, moves it into the other room, moves all of the other stuff, which is like a gaming type room. It's got a couple arcades in it. Drags those over there, sets it all up, puts lighting behind it, and then he comes down and he's like, hey, I need to show you something. I go upstairs, what's going on? He's like, my friends come over and there's not enough room to hang out in this room because it's my bed's in the way. So I'm going to sleep in the small room and we're going to hang out in this bigger room. But it looks awesome. I was like, wow, I mean, it really does look awesome. He hooked his computer up, hooked up the TV and all the game consoles, and had a couch moved in there. He took the couch out of my office, had to take the feet off of it. Like, I didn't have any idea that he had moved all this stuff around, but he figured it out. And I was like, hey, well done, right? When did you know how to take a bed frame apart? Well, I didn't. I looked it up on YouTube, and so he figured it out. I was like, oh, I wish I could get all 3 of my kids to just figure it out. And so I'm constantly telling them that. They'll come and ask me, and I won't always give them the right answer right off the gate, right? Go figure it out first. And if you can't figure it out, then come call me. Let's talk about it.
And I look at that, Brad, and I think a lot of that comes back to sometimes it's not even figuring it out, it's just taking the action. So if they really wanted it, so if you really wanted this other room for whatever reason, that he took the action just to go do it.
Yeah.
And I got some kids that, they'd probably starve themselves because they would not take the action to go do it. And then I've got other kids that have no problem that once they feel any ounce of hunger, they can go make their own food.
Oh, I got that. Yeah. No,
and so I think that's like, if you want something, just go do it. If you want whatever it is, just go get it. If you want to get better, go do more of it. Like, and just those simple concepts, I think sometimes we miss, you know what I mean?
And if you want it bad enough, you're going to figure it out a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
You mentioned, some of your kids are this way. I have one kid that it's extremely persistent, to the point that sometimes I'm just like, can you wait a minute? And I'm looking at this way because it just reminded me yesterday, he told me, I want to do this when we get home. And I'm like, hey, I just came back from a trip. Monday, super busy. You got to wait until probably midweek. Halfway through the afternoon, he's sitting right here. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm bored. I'm like, bud, I'm busy. I mean, you want to hang out with me? You can. But he's just here, just like literally just to make sure that we go do what he wants to do. And he's like that for everything. Yeah. He's just extremely persistent.
Well,
which I think it'll serve him well at one point. But it drives me crazy sometimes because I'm like, dude, you got to be patient. And I think in life, if he manages that well, because it can backfire too, right? Yeah. It'll probably serve him well because he's just super driven that way.
I think it will serve him more well than it will backfire. And I have a son that's that way as well. Mm-hmm. And my wife's like, every day he wants to go skiing. And every day, And I'm like, well, if you always tell him no and he's always asking and he always, like, you never want him to stop trying to figure out a way to go. So he'll call his friends and say, hey, you want to go skiing? Will your mom take us? And, my mom will pick us up. And then she's like, I will not pick you up. And so then he's like, finds a third friend. Hey, his mom will take us. Do you want to go skiing? Would your mom pick us up? And so then he comes with a plan and he's like, hey, so I can go skiing. It's not going to cost you any more money. They got a season's pass. One's got a buddy pass. His mom will take us. His mom will pick us up. Is there any reason why I can't go?
Solved every problem.
Awesome.
And so I see that in business long term. It's like, you're going to make something happen. You're going to find every way to get there, whatever it takes.
And so it's the same kid last year. He got into golfing, and I'm terrible at golf, but for some reason he thinks my clubs are the nicer, better ones that he's going to play better. He's 11. He leaves my 7-iron out on the course. So I get home, and my wife makes it seem like he just got done robbing a bank, and she's like, you got to go talk to your dad. And I'm like, oh, great. This is awesome. Like, what just happened? And, you go steal the neighbor's car. Like, what happened? And he's like, here's the deal. I went golfing. I only have a driver and a putter. I couldn't find my clubs. I took your 7-iron. I'm sorry. I left it out there somewhere. I've called them 3 times. They said I went out. I had mom take me back over. I went and looked for it. I couldn't find it. I am really sorry. It's like, wow. Okay. Like, I was, frustrated, and we talked about other things, but at that point, it's like, what do you do? Like, you try to fix every way that you could. You knew you made a mistake. You knew what it was. And so, and I just feel like, back to that, if people will just take action and kind of have just know what they want, figure out how to get it. And if they don't get it, or, then that's another thing. But I don't know. I think that it's pretty tricky, and when you have a kid who is persistent and a kid who's willing to move into that room, it's like, I'll come help you. And then you have the kid that's like, Dad, when are we going to move my room into this room? And you're like, I don't know. Like, it's more like, I want that help. But sometimes when somebody just jumps in and takes that action, it's hard not to get behind them, whether it's a child or a spouse or a friend or whatever it may be. If a friend's jumping into a business, it's and they're like, hey, will you just get the word out, and I want to sell as many donuts as possible. It's hard not to get excited to brainstorm of how can we sell as many donuts as possible? How can we get it out there? Yeah. But then when somebody's like, hey, you mind lending me some money so that I can do this? It's 2 different things. And I'm not saying that that's not all bad to ask a friend for a loan or things, but
they don't have a plan.
It's just different.
Just winging it. Yeah.
It's different.
You want to loan me some money?
No.
That's right. I don't need it, but
you beat me to it. I was going to ask. Well, going back to the beginning, to, we've covered a few things. We talked about when you decided that you wanted to be an entrepreneur. What about, when did you feel was your first win? When you're like, okay, this is it. This is what this is about. I can do this a lot more. I like it. Do you remember a moment like that? It doesn't have to be the precise moment, but one of the moments where you were like, okay, I can get more of this. I like it. Because it's addictive,
So they call them defining moments or things like that.
Ahas, maybe.
Yeah. Aha moments, yeah.
And I got into it, and I was flipping homes, and I was, we were doing pretty well. And we were making good money, wasn't keeping any of it. And I kind of got a little lax on just pretty idle and pretty casual. And I think I was about 28, 29, and I just kind of wanted everything to come easy. And every transaction that I had going, I was selling 11 homes a year. And so now in real estate, like, we know that that's terrible, especially if you're in the business for longer than 5. Like, you should maybe check a new career. But I was doing other things, and so I felt and told myself I was doing great. And anyway, everything fell apart, and it was a defining moment in my life that I realized that, I was, letting my wife down. I was stressing her out. We had 2 kids at the time. I was not near anywhere I wanted to be. I was broke as a joke, and I had $0, and I got to have that conversation of, well, it's going to be tricky to pay bills for the next 3 or 4 months. And anyway, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And a lot of my friends were in the oil fields, and a lot of them were struggling with their family. And I mean, there's so much sacrifice that goes on.
They're making all the money, but they're gone all the time. Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe what I need to do, I got a great opportunity here. I'm already licensed. I'm already in it. I somewhat of a foothold into it. People are making money doing it. Maybe I just need to just freaking focus on the opportunity that I have and give everything I have, so that then I can decide whether or not this is it for me. And so I just picked up the phone, and there's this saying that even a blind squirrel can find a nut every once in a while. And that was what I was going to do. I was going to call and call and call until somebody was going to talk to me and buy a house or sell a house. And that's what I did. And I did that for probably about 14 months to a year and a half. And I just sat in a small office, and I set appointments for 2 days a week, and I just made phone calls. But that was the time in my life that I realized that this was going to work, because then you start getting these wins, and maybe it's just being productive for a full week, and you start collecting these wins, and then it just starts building upon itself, and then you start seeing the progression, and you start seeing these things. And there was things that I had to change with myself personally, for sure. You have to get right to where you can enjoy looking at the guy in the mirror, and not trying to hide and duck and dodge him. And then the other thing is I had to be 100% transparent and honest with my wife. So back when business wasn't good, I was like a lot of real estate agents, and I'd come home, and my wife would be like, "How was work today?" And I'd say, "Oh, it was good," knowing damn well that I was at the Blue Wave for 3.5 hours, shooting pool, smashing burgers, and I wasn't doing what I should. It wasn't good, And so, I mean, I know in her mind, weeks after weeks, asking me this, like, well, why are we not making any dollars? So, as I started kicking it into gear, my wife, and this is what I tell any real estate agent, any business owner, as my wife would say, she still does, "How was work today?" And I'll say, it was really good. I felt like it was productive. I'm not sure if we made any money today. Or, it was really good. For sure we made some money today. Or, you know what? I didn't do shit. Like I actually was not feeling it, and I went and I hung out, and I don't do those very often, but at least she knows, right? And sometimes she's just like, "Well, you're an idiot, and you need to focus, or make sure you get back after it tomorrow, or you had those 2 big days last week," and I find that is just such a really easy, soft conversation to have, but it's one of the easiest, best accountability meetings that I personally can have with somebody. Is just telling them exactly how that went, because they don't know what's going on your day to day.
Yeah.
I would say the aha moment for me has yet to come. Even it's kind of a weird spot to be. Ever since I jumped off the cliff to be a realtor in end of 2015, I've just been plowing ahead to try and I've had many, many wins, but I've had many, many losses too. And so I don't know that I've ever really sat and stacked them against each other to see, other than the fact that we're doing well, right? Like, so I know I'm headed down the path of the right way. But as far as a actual aha, I figured this out, I've got it, I don't think I've ever had that yet. I've been looking at it, and I've got some goals, right? And once I achieved the goal, I guess I could kind of say that those were aha moments. Back in the day when we were with the group and we set these goals to do affirmations, my first affirmation was, I enjoy earning $120,000 a year. And so I was writing that down 25 times every morning for like 90 some days. And then that's when I got hired on with Copper Creek Homes, became their CEO. And when he asked me to be the CEO, he said, how much is that going to cost me? And I blurted out 120 grand, like immediately. And that's like 14 months into my real estate journey.
Thinking that he'll never accept.
Yeah, he'll never say yes to this. He didn't even hesitate. And then I was like, oh, should ask for more, right? But so I think that maybe that was an aha time, but then I learned from it, grew from it, and thought I can do so much more than that. So why don't I just keep plowing through this and try and figure it out? And that's the year that I started flipping houses, which is 2017. When I flipped my very first house and we cleared like 40 grand on it or something, I was like, oh, I can do this. So there's these little steps that when I would.
So those are like little.
Those are like
moments,
little
right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, I flipped the house. I can, I did all this work, but there is a big reward at the end of the road.
And it was like a culmination of my life, right? So all my construction experience combined with sales experience, combined with leadership experience, to put together all the pieces to flip this very first house, which was a total disaster. We had to take it clear down to the studs. And I did it in like 8 weeks. Granted, it was a tiny little house, only 900 square foot home, but we flipped that thing around and I said, I'm going to try and like really do this now. So then my next one, I did 3 at the same time. Did great. The next one, I tried to do 5 at the same time. Started to learn that's getting out of the realm of what I can probably handle.
Gets a lot trickier, yeah.
Mainly because it was so far away, because 3 of the 5 were in St. Anthony. And so we made on those 3 houses, I want to say we made like $3,000, so like $1,000 a piece.
I would encourage you, Brad, to track your financial statement, and then something that you're good at, but be more purposeful of is just your gratitude. Because when you look back, like I agree with you, like sometimes I feel like I have the tiger by the tail and I can't let go because I don't know what's going to happen. And so you just got to keep going. I don't know if I'm chasing it or it's chasing me, but when you can track your financial statement and you can see where you're progressing that way. And then when you have gratitude and you can totally tell where these goals are getting met, I think when you look back, then you can realize, I'm progressing and I am doing it, because there's a beginning of it, but there really is no end, right? You don't really stop, and so you're chasing something, and we all are, I feel like in being an entrepreneur, like there's no end, right? There's no, we're chasing success, but I do think oftentimes that gets missed because we're living in it. I get to hang out in the middle of the day with, 2 of my best friends for 2 hours. Right. And then, but I mean, like there's a lot of people that don't get to do that, that are in corporate jobs or places like that. And so, I mean, you have to understand that, we are in success. And then I also think, something I often think about that, like you're just gonna win. You always win. You always come out on top, right? And so you have to always look at that too. But I think just tracking your progression, hopefully that helps you feel a little more satisfied you'll have more bigger ahas.
No, you're right. I don't track them. I can look back and kind of see them. And I've flipped a lot of houses since then. But I've never said, I got it. Like, this is the one, I did it. I met this goal. I've accomplished what I've set out to do. And I don't know, I've never wrote all that down. Like, hey, well, I got this one. I got this one. I got this one. I always look at the negatives first, right? Like, I missed that. I missed that. How do I get better at that? How do I fix this? And I'm trying to fix things all the time versus being more great.
But I also think it's bad when you think, when I get here, then I'll be happy. When I get this, then I'll be happy. When I buy that Porsche, I'll be happy. Because you're no happier now that you have that than what you were before. And in the more Porsches you have in your life, I think that you'll be less.
Carlos, not me.
I
don't fit in it.
You'll be less happy, right? Like in me, I've learned that I've always set these, well, I'm going to get this, and when I get this or achieve this, then I'll be happy. And then that will be an accomplishment. And then I get through it, and then it's like, then I'm on the next one, and then I look back, and then I have all these things that maybe I've accumulated those definitely aren't the things that make me happy. But looking back and seeing progression and hanging out with people who I like, or spending time with people who I like, then I'm like, that's actually what makes me the most happy.
But would you say that with every entrepreneur, I mean, at the end of the day, we set up goals, right? And we go after them and we get them, and it's like, okay, what's next? It's what's next. When does it stop? Do we ever stop? Do you have a final goal? Or, where do you draw the line? I mean, but at the same time, I get what you're saying. As you're doing all these things, it's the journey, not the destination. Yes, it's kind of cliche. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you're trying to achieve all these things and you're not enjoying the process,
right,
then what the hell is the point?
And that's really hard. And I've learned that. I've learned that the last 7 years, I haven't really been super fulfilled, right? And I have learned that I haven't enjoyed any of the process or the progress or the different lessons and that's why we were talking about our dads going back through that. That's what I've learned. And I was like, you got to start enjoying a lot more of these, things of why they happen and how they happen and that sort of thing. Cause I agree with you 100%. And I think it is super hard. But when you talk about setting goals, like, whose idea is it? Like, where did it come from that we have to set these huge goals and work our asses off completely just because you're an entrepreneur, and I think it's like, you got to be like, why am I setting this goal?
Yeah.
Am I setting it for me, or am I setting it because my competition is there and I got to go a little higher? And because I think sometimes you got to be why you're setting that goal. And it's okay to set huge goals, and I'm not saying not to, but I also think sometimes we burn ourselves out and then we hit that goal and then we got to benchmark ourselves. And so then we're like, oh, well, now I can go harder and I can go bigger and I can go. And I think you got to understand why you're doing it, because I think sometimes we get lost in that and then we accumulate all this shit that doesn't even matter in the long run.
Is it a keeping up with the Joneses, and the Joneses are society, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
where do you draw the line? But what is the end goal? Like, I mean, I can tell you on my end, the end goal is just to have, which it gets murky because you're trying to have a better life, a better quality of life, provide your family with a better life without making your children entitled. And so how do you balance that, right? Because you're saying, as you were saying, you were entitled, but then you feel like your kids are more entitled because we're trying to give them maybe what we didn't have,
right,
or we're trying to do things a little bit different from the things that we learned as we were raised, and then we pick what we liked and what we don't. We take what we liked, and then we try to do something different with what we didn't. But then as you're trying to achieve this goal, and then you go like, okay, so what's next? And what's next? And so it's like, when do you not necessarily hit the brakes, but it's like, where do you go with it? I mean, that's
so for me, I've
question.
learned that learning is that I got to do my personal best. So whether it's spiritually, physically, financially, I've just got to be my best. And when you talk about this, like, it's like, what's your goal? If you would have asked me, 7 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 1 year ago, I would have been like, I just want to spend my time the way that I want, because that's the way everybody talks about. So 5 years, I travel, I go to friggin' amazing concerts, I do amazing trips, I do all this stuff. And I realized that slowly my joy was actually eroding, but then it's almost like a drug that then I'm booking the next trip or I'm going to the next thing. And so then it was actually through some coaching and some different things like that I realized I'm actually like kind of running from, maybe it's responsibility, maybe it's growth, maybe it's that pain of trying to be better, or just that discomfort of being comfortable being uncomfortable, and I just want to relax. I don't want to wake up at 5 every morning and go to the gym. I don't want to do these things but really I think we need to. And that's what I don't understand, like why we do it. I don't know, because I've done both sides, and I'm like, one side I was slowly becoming miserable because it just felt like no purpose. And it just got even less fun. Like everything just become less, like just less meaningful, less fun, less purposeful.
You didn't enjoy it as much. Yeah.
Not even close. And so I just realized, like, back to what you said, is this like when I was the most happy was when I was progressing, and I could see the process, and I could see what I was building, or I was doing something productive.
Yeah. And the realization of that is goal too, should be a main goal, because most of these people out there don't have that at all, because they've never experienced both sides, right? Like, to be able to go on 4 or 5 trips in a year is very difficult for some people, because they're just trying to make their bills, right? They're
just get
trying
by.
to put food on the table, let alone be able to go out and have a trip or whatever.
100%.
Or just get caught up. I mean, not even get by, but get caught up. They're behind.
They feel like they're drowning in say debt, versus they're like, must be nice to be drowning in success. But the mental standpoint of that too is very difficult once you get to that point, and then you don't have purpose.
Where you don't sleep. So like, it's like first world problem. So somebody's listening, like, I don't know, Morgan, but it's like, when you get there, like, I grinded to the point of where I didn't sleep. I grinded to the point of where I couldn't, like, you can't function, right? And it's like, each their own. Somebody listening can't relate, and they're like, nah. But it's like, you kind of pick those demons, you know what I mean? And you get to pick what one you want. And so everybody has 24 hours in a day. And so that's what we were talking about. What is your most precious asset is time.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the opposite of an asset? A liability. So what are we using our time for? Is it on liabilities, or building more assets, or being an asset to somebody? So if I ask you, Brad, and thinking about this, hopefully it comes out of the end the way that I want it to. But why would you buy Duck Donuts? Why would you buy a donut shop? Like, why would you do it?
I've trained my brain to seek out opportunity whenever and however I possibly can. So when an opportunity presents itself, and I target that as an opportunity, and it's an opportunity that I've never dealt with before,
right?
I thrive in the last 6 weeks of 16 hours a day, because my dad beat it into me that you're the hardest worker in the room. And so now it's a challenge for me, and it's fulfilling to then be able to say, I'm going to go into something that is literally off the cliff. I was using the analogy of like Thelma and Louise driving off that cliff, and the car was already airborne, and I used a giant net with a crane and shot that.
You paused it and then rewound.
Yep. I grabbed it out of the air, pulled it back, put it on the ground, turned the car around, and started driving towards it. That drives me like none other, to know that I can jump into anything. I've never made a donut before November 29th or 28th.
But that being said, and there's no question that this is going to happen. It's going to be the most.
How many have you eaten before that?
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
That it's going to be successful, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then what? Like, are you on to the next? So when I'm on the outside looking in, from my perspective, and I told you the same thing, I was like, dude, it's got to be pretty freaking awesome to wake up every morning and just have the smell of donuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the other cool thing is you get to help, and you get to mentor young kids that are in there, and you get to talk to young kids, and we've, talked about that, like, not to rewind, to our own kids, but I mean, you get to help them, teach them, mentor them, and be a part of their life, so that then, 20 years from now, they're on a podcast and they're like, man, I had this job, and it was like, you wouldn't believe it, I worked in a donut shop. And then it's like, it progresses from there of, this is what I learned from that.
Yeah. And it's actually, that was part of the goal. Was my whole goal for 26 is to learn other people and treat them the way they want to be treated,
Right.
so that I am better at reading the room. And it's not all about Brad. It's about, how do I make everyone around me better all the time?
Yeah.
And so you're exactly right. When we took that over, and I wasn't even really thinking about that, because again, it was November. It was kind of during the process of hiring these new kids and getting rid of some of the other kids that had a really bad attitude towards it. And I could see that they weren't going to be willing to learn and grow from it. Or maybe I wasn't able to convince them that this was what we were going to do now.
Right.
And so I had to start anew with them. And there's been some, even already, we've already had a couple of them that have turned around and left. Because
it's hard nowadays, and just being around my own kids or their friends, like, there's a lot of distractions, right? Like, would much rather be in our comfort zone. And so for me, it's on a beach, or for them, it's playing Xbox, or, even if it is making donuts, they'd rather be doing something different. Yeah. And so, but that's what's cool for me, is I'm like, man, what an opportunity, because you get to say, hey, look, Billy, like, I know that you would rather be somewhere else, but at least you're not doing super hard physical work. You're making donuts with some of your friends. Yeah. And if there's something I could teach you is if you work super hard here making donuts, your next job maybe isn't going to be as, as fun or as whatever. But at least I hope that when you leave here, you get XYZ. And I literally had that conversation with all of them. We had a team meeting like 2 weeks ago. And when I gave them all their handbooks and everything, I said, I realized that the donut shop is not a landing place for your career, right? This is not something that you're aspiring to do for the rest of your lives. Right. I understand that a lot of you are still in high school even, or newly graduated from high school, and just looking to start your lives and start going out into doing something else. If there's something that I can do while you're here, is teach you that the hard work will pay off, is to teach you that, here, I'm going to hand you all this book called Think and Grow Rich, right? And it has nothing to do with money. It has to do with your mindset. How do you change your own mindset to become the best version of you? Right. And same with The Go-Giver, same with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? All of those books have helped me, and not everybody will read a book. So then now they have to see it in action. Well, I'm hoping that I am portions of those books and portions of those things that I've learned over the years in action, and they can see that, and they see that somebody came in. I'm hoping that the entire community of Idaho Falls can see that's what we're trying to do. It's not about the donuts. It's not about, when it was Pick Me Up, it's not about the soda. I did an interview with the Standard Journal down there, and that was what I told them I wanted them to label it. It's not about the soda. It's about the relationship between the person in the car that's buying the soda and the person that's inside of the window making it for him. That's awesome. If that's a good relationship, we won. And that's what's cool is you get to build that, right? You get to teach that. And so you can hopefully build little entrepreneurs and teach them and just show them, like, hey, by leveraging others and by being kind and helping you understand and learn and grow, they're all growing. So then, rising tide raises all ships. And so then you get a better donut place. You become more profitable. And so it's just, better all the way around. And I bring that up because that is running any business. And it's easier with kids in a donut shop to help understand that. But then you start trying to teach adults.
It's the basics, and you can apply it to just about anything.
And then, and then you start teaching adults, and it's, teaching old dogs new tricks. And sometimes it's hard to get somebody out of their way or out of their own self-sabotage because they've been doing it for 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
And it's all that they know, and they can't imagine killing off a part of themselves to become something better.
Yeah.
And it really is. So what's cool is you get to teach these guys, at a younger age, so that hopefully it benefits them, for years and years and years to come.
Yeah.
Which is really cool because it's something that you learned from your dad and you're kind of passing it along, not just to your kids, but to other kids.
Yeah.
Some good work habits, good work ethic, and all the advantages that they're going to get from that, applying it to whatever they decide to do in the future.
And there's nothing more rewarding than, so I go back to the scouting thing. There was one of those kids that was 12-year-old, and this has been like 18 years ago now. So when he was 12, fast forward to when he became 18 or 17 years old, and he got the highest rank, that was the Eagle Scout, right? And he got that, even though I was not a part of that after the first year, but it put him on a trajectory that he kept going, right? And his parents helped him through that, and other leaders helped him through that. But I was super happy that he'd called and reached out to me to say, hey, I'm getting this award and I need you to be there because you were the start of it.
So that's
awesome.
Yeah, that's a good feeling.
Yeah. When you say that, that reminds me of, like, my son's going through the same thing with football right now. And their coach is teaching him different things and helping him with different things. And it's that same sort of thing. He says, my goal is when you come shake my hand at graduations, that you say thank you and you're grateful that you came through it. And back to kind of what we were talking about is his coach also taught me something that, maybe I was more open to hear this year, is he's like, it's not about the outcome. The outcome's going to take care of itself. So if we go to work every single day and show up and do our very, very best and spend our time as wise as we can and try to help others and teach others, and we have patience and grace, the outcome's going to take care of itself. And so we have to enjoy the process and the little bit of progress every day. And you need to look back and track that. And then the outcome, I feel like, comes there. Whatever goal it is that we want for a fulfilled life, that's going to happen. Because I'm always like, oh man, if I could have a life and just live on the beach and I could just do this, and then my life's going to be happy. And I get there and I'm like,
I'm bored.
Where's the happiness? Like, holy shit. Like, I thought it was going to be a lot better.
I don't know. I thought we had a pretty good time now.
But it's like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I get it.
And it's awesome. And it provides, like, it's great networking and it's great bonding.
Yeah.
But, like, as far as just like,
what else is there to it?
Do it every day.
And you do that you get that accomplished at 38 years old. And I can look at that and be like, dude, that's pretty wild. Like, that was a bold move that I made happen. Then I'm like, but I'm still not, like, fulfilled. I'm not happy. And so then you just keep going. But I'm like, if you keep stacking these wins and pulling these businesses and helping these different people, and you're just grinding, but then you're enjoying that process every single day, and you can leave and, count your blessings, so to speak, or just share, show your own gratitude and just have gratitude and count and say what you're grateful for. I think that's where we are going to be happy, is that we get to then do it in our own brains, right? Like, if you go back into high school with high school Brad, I guarantee it, he's not like, okay, I'm going to flip some houses, I'm going to build some houses, I'm going to be a real estate agent, I'm going to be a developer, and then I think I'm just going to have a donut shop, and then I'll be good. Right? And so you do that, but I mean, it's you're thinking big. And like, when you're like, I always look for opportunity, and the opportunity is you're always thinking big and you're always trying to be creative.
Yeah.
And so when you say, when was this, or when did you think of that? And I'm like, dude, I've always thought of stuff like this. I've always thought of having, these random things, and
the wheels are always spinning.
Always. And so, but if you can still build those things that you love and you enjoy, I think that's where you're always going to be fulfilled. But then you also need to look back and track those for fulfillments, because I think that's the biggest thing. And we get to operate in our own space.
Yeah, as we sit here and talk about this, though, and it's coming to my mind, just having relationships amongst other successful people, and sometimes it's not successful people, right? But people that recognize the journey. Success is not necessarily measured monetarily.
Right.
It's measured in how are you a happy person? Are you thankful? Are you grateful for things that are happening?
How's your relationship with your wife?
Right.
And your kids?
Exactly, like the same exact thing. Like if that's missing, then the money probably doesn't mean anything.
Nothing.
Right. And so to bring another conversation full circle, when you asked what would you do with your dad if he was still here, or what advice would you give to someone that still has their dad? And I think you said this perfectly, is make that if you don't have a relationship, go and make a relationship, because that action point is what's going to make your life better. And if you already have a relationship, what can you do to make that relationship better? Because your dad, whether we want to think it that one way or another, he wants you to be better than him. And just like I want my son to be better than me.
Right.
Innately in the back of our minds, we're thinking of that. And so now if you go and try as the son to say, okay, Dad, I think might be getting to be better than you, right? Give him a little poke of the bear too. Oh yeah, well, sure you are, dipshit, right? But in the same breath, he's also going to be in the back of his mind saying, oh, I'm super grateful that my boy is making it and he's doing things as good or better than I would do them. And we have a great relationship,
right?
And we're and that's the key component to it.
And I think that you hit that, money is just a tool. It's just a vehicle, and it's not going to make you more happy, right? My wife and I have an incredible relationships. Our ups and downs, luckily, never revolved around money. And in the downs, I would have traded all to made it more up. You know what I mean? And when you talk about your dad, I would, against his will, I'd sell every asset I had to give him a hug, to have one more day with him.
Yeah.
And that would make me more money. And so it's like, I could have all of the money, but that doesn't, in the end, doesn't really make me happy. You know what I mean? I'd go back to -0 before 0, and I'd go in the hole just so I could have that day or that time, or I would give all of my money away just to make sure that my wife and I and my family always had a great relationship. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
And so when we talk about success and things like that, I think we got to be careful of, sometimes our success is already there. It's just, what kind of chaos do you want to add to it? What kind of things do you want to do? And how can we teach others? Because like what you said, I don't think it helps anything to grow these amazing businesses if you're not allowing your kids to take a part of it so that they're learning something. Because if you're growing it and doing it, like what I've learned is I'm taking away from my time with my kids or things like that.
Yeah.
So what are you teaching them so that they can understand? And I mean, definitely money issues suck. It just because you maybe it appears somebody has money doesn't mean that they don't worry about money. And I have friends that, struggle with, money, and I'm like, well, go have X amount of money in debt and see how that feels for you. Money is not the make or break of the happiness. I do think that sometimes we stress about money way too much, and then therefore it causes more stresses.
Yeah. I fully agree with you.
That's a good way to look at it. I mean,
well, and what if too, I think that I have a safety net because I've gone from point A to point B. I know in my heart that I could work and do it again.
Because you're hard work.
Yeah.
I like the safety net. I honestly use that a lot, because there's a certain point where if I get below a certain, I shouldn't say an amount, but a level, then I'm like, okay, I start looking around. I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? I got myself where I didn't need to be. So once you get past that point, then you're like, but to be fair, I feel like the safety net gets bigger as
Yeah.
time goes by.
Mm-hmm.
And your
why-
safety net was back here,
Yeah.
then you got here, and now it's here, and now it's here, and it just keeps getting bigger.
and that's where I'm getting at, right? Like that's the discussion, is because like one of the reasons why we like Costa Rica is most of the people down there are happy where they're at, and they are like they're minimalist. They don't have big homes. They're just happy, and they're good people, right? And they I'm sure have a safety net, you know, and whatever. But it seems like the Joneses thing sometimes, you know, subconsciously we're like, nah, I'm not trying to keep up with anybody. But then all of a sudden I get a new truck, or
You
I
find
get a new
yourself doing it,
something,
yeah.
or you're like, yeah, you're reaching for those things. And I'm like, well, this is going to make me happier. This is going to make me happier. And so then it's like, and then you have all these things that are going to make you happier, but then you're not happy. And that's where like the money goes backwards. Like if your relationships are what matter, you know, if you had no money and you were just paying your bills, and then you had a safety net. I mean, that's just part about being financially fit. But you're not trying to grow that. And then you're just putting money away. So then you could stop working at, you know, 50, 55, like whatever that is. You could even go for as much money as we buy on stupid shit. We could retire a lot earlier, right? Than 50,
100%.
55.
Oh,
And so anyway,
I've been spending money like crazy on shoes.
so now you know what I think about all the time, is because I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I buying all this stuff? Why do I do all of it? Well, what am I going to do with, like, am I going to save it? And then how long do I work for? Like, this isn't like, and so I'm like trying to find all of these reasons or these things to do. And I'm like, man, I just got to figure out how to be happy by making myself happy, by making others happy, by being, you know, just trying to just grow in different ways all the time.
My safety net isn't necessarily just having a big savings account that's sitting there waiting for me in case I do something wrong. What if I lose everything?
Right.
My safety net is the knowledge that I have built over the last 15 years, 40 years of work hard, see it through, show up every day, and I could regrow a safety net if I needed it. But that is my safety net, is my experience.
But would you say that gets harder also as you get older?
Yeah,
Because it's taken you all this time to learn what you learn, right? Experience, years,
Oh yeah.
wins,
Which I think
wins and failures.
that's what makes
And
me.
so if you're going to start at zero again,
It's very scary.
45, it's a lot scarier
It's
than if you
scary,
have
but
to
I think I could do it twice as fast, or maybe even 10 times as fast because of the knowledge that I've got.
Man, I've thought about that. And man, it was like 6 months of zero sleep, because I was like, what if? And it was this imposter syndrome of anxiety that came out of nowhere, that I was like, well, what if? And so then that's when I just decided that, you know, you just have to freaking grind, and you just have to, you know, and grind every day and try to get better every day, and then it'll be fine, because your success will still follow you. You could go back to zero, but people remember you and the things that you have done. Like, there's always going to be, you know, an opportunity for you. But something when you were talking about different things, one thing, so when my dad passed away, he did really well. And what was crazy is there is 6 kids in my family, and me and a sister, and we worked together with my dad quite a bit. And so we knew his estate, and we're both the executors, right? So I have 4 siblings who did not. And they were just as close with my dad personally or whatever, you know. And I'll tell you this, no matter how much success or inheritance or whatever, what I felt like I inherited was the wisdom and the things and the lessons. And because he passes away, all the stuff has to be done. I just pick up the ball and I just keep running with it.
Yeah.
You know, oftentimes I run the wrong direction and they got to remind me to go the other way. But I mean, at the same time, I know it. I know the people, I know the things, I have the knowledge. And so, I mean, that's something.
But I like that analogy. Like, you just picked up the ball, like, you know, when there's somebody drops the ball in a game, and you just pick up the ball, and you know where you have to go, or at least you're going to keep moving rather than looking around
And
trying to figure out where
and
you
my
went.
siblings are completely lost. Like they just are like, what are we going to do with this stuff? And that's where I feel like a lot of maybe estates or things like that things aren't passed out or passed down, and so then they just get sold for not the best use of what they were for, and so then they're not as I don't know, you'd say, like, people don't capitalize on it.
Yeah.
And so that's something that you can build with your employees at Duck Donuts, but then your own kids, of things that you get to pass down, of just things that are going to make them better.
Yeah.
Shit that Brad taught me.
This is why we have these conversations.
Yeah.
We're about an hour and 20 minutes into it, but I don't know if you guys have somewhere to go. I got a couple more questions really quick.
Yeah, sure.
Because you're not busy, you have nowhere to be. You talked about going home, talking to your spouse when you have a good day, when you have a bad day. So how important is that, to have the right partner that puts up with your shit, that listens to your wins, listens to your losses, and watches you go through all the ups and downs?
So
how important is that?
So we run a real estate team, and I would say it's by far the most important thing. My wife, I don't have to worry about anything. And we're I don't want to say traditional, but we're traditional in the fact that my role is to protect the family and then provide for the family. So I go out and I hunt every single day. Some days I'm a lousy hunter. There's times in my life, like I told you, that I didn't make it out there to hunt, and I got a little distracted. But she's always been the one that's at home taking care of everything at home. And she takes care of the house and taking care of the house and taking care of the kids. And I mean, that's a job. And then she also helps with just managing, paying bills, doing things like that. And she has an understanding of everything I bring to the table. Does that make sense? And so I also think that she grounds me a lot, because there's a lot of things that I guess risks that I take that she'll maybe I listen to her, maybe I don't.
But sometimes she kind of like you said, she brings you back to the ground, or she's just kind of like your.
And either way, like, pass or fail, works or doesn't, like, she's always solid, right? Like, if I come back and I'm like, hey, I did that thing you told me not to do, and it sucked,
And you were right.
and she's never like, I told you so. She's just like, okay, well, this is why I thought, or this is what worried me about it. But there's a lot that she's told me not to do, like, don't do that. And I go and do it. And I'm like, sometimes you have to shut out some of that noise. But that's the tricky part, is not to not listen to your wife, but it's like you've got to have that grace in that relationship too. And so for a spouse, like, I don't know how anybody can do anything if you don't have a supportive spouse. And a supportive spouse isn't, the quote unquote trophy wife that just loves to partake in the success. I would say the supportive spouse is the one that's really willing to get down there and get it done and figure it out and help you. And when you're stressed, to help talk you through it. And that's what I can say for me. And when we hire agents on, I ask them a lot about their spouse. Like, what do they do for work? What's their input? What do they think about you getting your real estate license? Oh, they don't think I should do it. Or they're just excited because I'm going to get out of the house, and things like that. I'm like, oh, that I'm sure that this is going to work out for you, because they're going to be the same ones that when it sucks, they're going to come back and be like, oh yeah, it's stupid. Like, what,
Well,
like,
that bleeds into the,
it bleeds into it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's the very most important decision you can make in your life. And I've seen it on both sides, and I've seen people, and I just, a lot of times, I mean, there's the gratitude, you think, man, I'm grateful I have who I have. Like, who else would put up with this shit? Or who else could mirror and match me the same way?
Yeah. if there wasn't a Julie, there wouldn't be a Brad in this, for instance. So she was a nurse when I was a delivery driver. She married me when I didn't have anything, right? And we started a life together. And when I decided to jump off the cliff and start doing these things, she was super scarcity mindset, super scared of flipping a house or purchasing an extra house and then having to do the work, because she just wants to know that there's a game plan. She wants to know that there's some stability in it.
Right.
And the fact that she has stuck with me through all of that, I joke like that I'm the caveman that has just drug her by the hair through the mud until we get to the other side, right? But when I look back on it, I never had to drag her by the hair. She literally was like the kid in. I think of following my dad through the forest,
right,
and stepping in his footsteps to kind of follow. Right. I wasn't dragging her. She was, if anything, she was behind me, just propping my back up, so that if I fell backwards a little bit, she could give me that little bit of a nudge to keep moving forward. And then I could turn around and look back, and she was taking care of all the kids, making sure the food was on the table, making sure the house was clean, like traditional type things, where she has taken care of my life on the back end, to where I don't have to worry about it, to give me the opportunity to then look forward and be that forward thinker and be that hunter that is out there driving the ship, because I don't have to worry about all those little things, because I know Julie has that taken care of.
So, Carlos, you've been on your own before, and what do you see the difference of just being, single dad and then now married with somebody who's bought in and has a vision?
Well, to be fair and honest, I wasn't on my own for that long.
Right.
So, but it makes a difference on the partner that you have. And I'm not here to shed on my ex-spouse. At the end of the day, I'm grateful. I have 2 kids with her, and I'm very grateful for that. But it does make a difference. Like Julie,
just when you're aligned.
Yeah, no. And that's what makes a difference. Every marriage has roles, and every spouse has roles in a marriage, and you have that well established. But I would say with Kim, just like Julie, she was in the medical field. Mm-hmm. And during COVID, she was just sick of it. They were working them so hard without any incentives or anything other than pizza. Seriously. Right. Yeah. That's the kind of incentives. Like, we're bringing you pizza today, so you can stay later.
COVID and die.
Yeah, seriously. So she was like, I need to do something else. And I was like, why don't you come to do real estate? And it was a big risk, because we're already together.
Steady income,
right? She was kind of the steady income. And we were together. We were not married at the time. We already went into a venture. We bought a house together. And we figured, listen, we're going to buy this house. If things work out, this is great. If it doesn't work out, we're going to flip it. Right. It's an investment. We bought it good. So we figured we'll do it. But she put so much trust in me. She had no idea, just like that. I was like, well, we're going to take this house and we're going to get it from A to B. And she's like, this place is a piece of shit. And I'm like, trust me, you're going to see it. And now she has the same vision. She's learned it. And so she sees it through. And so she's much more opinionated and everything, and gives a lot more input. Now we run a real estate team together, which is a lot more challenging too, because we don't always agree. Right. But at the end of the day, she backs me up. She has my back, and she calls me out on my shit like nobody else.
Right.
And I love that. I really like it, because it keeps me grounded. And so, but she motivates me. She pushes me. If she sees me taking a bit of a step back, she's like, you got this. You've done this before, or this is close enough to what you did. This is just a step above. You got it. So as far as motivation, she is my biggest cheerleader. Seriously, she's. I'm very grateful.
When you say that, what I like about that is, so my wife and I met when I was 17, right before I graduated. And so everything from the ground up. And, when I was in, before I got canned on my 21st birthday, there was a time that, I didn't make enough money that I had to borrow like my truck payment at the time was like $187. I had to borrow it from her, and she was working at Melaleuca at the time. And I was like, she was like my girlfriend at the time. I was like, oh, hey, I can't make my truck payment, and so there's things that you build. And I think when you build with that person and you're working together, and you can look back and back to what we were talking about, Brad, is you look back and you see your progression of what you've built together and what you've done, and how you just keep moving forward, together. And you can honestly say, like, man, without you, I couldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And there's these different things. And I think that that's what's, really cool is, our very first house we flipped, we bought it for 20 grand, and we gutted it with a freaking finish hammer and a flat screwdriver. And it was the shits. It was the worst. And she was like, man, what are we doing? Like, this thing is like just a big doghouse. Like, what are we doing? And we turned out, and I lived in it, and it was like actually a pretty nice, decent little home. And so then that made it so the next time we flipped a home, or that, next time she had a little bit more vision, and she could be like, people would come in and be like, you've heard it. Like, oh man, this thing's terrible. The best thing this thing needs is a gas and a match. And she's like, dude, we flipped worse than this. Like, this is going to be pretty sweet. Anyway, I think when you can build with somebody, it's awesome. And you can have just that intimate relationship with somebody that they literally become your half.
Yeah.
That literally they know you better than you know yourself. And they're like that bird's eye view that sometimes is like, no, you can keep going, or you can do this, or you can do that. And I think that's what's pretty awesome. And I think that that's what kind of makes it together, and to just get aligned with somebody. And a lot of people don't get aligned, and that's fine. And then they got to try again, and it helps them get more aligned.
A little bit longer to get aligned with the right person, or it doesn't mean that you weren't with the right person. You were just in a different chapter of your life, right?
And I think sometimes you have to have that, so to know what both of you really need or want.
100%.
And so then when you find that next one, you're like, this is what I need to do to be better, to make you better, because I didn't do this last time. And so then this person wasn't able to, succeed, or, and I'm going to do better at this time to make sure it works. Just like in anything, right? Any time we kind of have a bump or a lesson, we're like, okay, next time I go into this, I'm going to plan a little bit better. I'm going to be a little bit better. I'm going to make this happen. And so anyway, but I think picking your spouse, most important decision you can do in your whole life.
100% agree.
Stuff and going flipping through houses, and like the first one was, I can't imagine how stressed Julie was on the very first one. Now I think I'm 120 some flips in at this point, and I'll joke and just come home and be like, "Hey, I bought a house today." Oh, cool. Where's it at?
When are we signing?
It's on 4th Street. Well, she didn't even ask that, right? Like, I bought it, it's done. We already closed, and like she doesn't, because it's under the business, so she doesn't have to technically sign for it, right? So she's almost oblivious at the fact of now we're flipping through these houses so fast, or hey, we're going to sign in and do the biggest development I've ever done, right? So it's going to be 56 townhomes. I'm going to sign on that, and it's basically putting everything that we have up in collateral to say
it's a big risk. Yeah.
It's a gigantic risk, right? But she doesn't even bat an eye at this. I mean, overall, it's like a $17 million project, and she didn't even bat an eye at it now.
And the reason why I would say
freaking out.
So the reason why I would say, Brad, is when you think about this, picking your spouse, the reason why it matters is because no matter how much you have or how little you have, you're going to be happy.
Yeah.
And so with your spouse, you think that she trusts you, which she does, but she doesn't care. It's not the dollar. It's not the thing like that moves it. She's like, no matter what, I'm going to have you. I'm going to have our family.
She signed up for the journey, so she's like,
we're going to be happy.
Do this.
But we're going to be happy no matter what, no matter how much money or how much money we don't have,
Yeah.
And I think that that's why Because oftentimes I'm like, man, my wife doesn't care. She's so chill. I'm like, she doesn't care because I better not ruin this egg, right? That is just, as long as she has me and I have her and we have a warm place to live and we have our kids, she'll be fine. Yeah. She doesn't care what job I was to take or what to do, or the dollar amount doesn't change her life at all.
No.
But
well, I think it makes a lot of a difference, because even though in my previous business, different marriage too, I had a successful business, but I feel like with the spouse, with Kim that I am now, the difference on running the team and flipping houses and rentals and investments and everything is completely different. It's just, there's been a big growth over time. And 100% agree with you on bringing back those things that you learned from your previous experience and making sure that you don't make those mistakes again. And, knowing what you're willing to accept or tolerate or not, and learning the things that you might have done wrong and not repeating that.
And you try to, I'm sure, take stuff off of her plate, right? Yeah, so if I come home and I'm like wound up, it's not just like telling the kids, hey, you can't do that in this room, you need to be quiet or whatever, dad's in a bad mood. Like that doesn't exist. But it's more like, man, I'm sorry you had a bad day. Like what happened? Like, what do you think you need to do to fix it? Like, what do you think you'll be able to fix it? What do you like, what conversation are you going to have with this person? How do you think that will, and just asking and talking you through it and taking an interest and having empathy, like, man, you're having a bad day. I'm sorry. That kind of makes me have a bad day that you're having a bad day, instead of being like, I don't care if you had a bad day. We're going to go do this and this and this and this. And don't you let that bleed on us, because
partner,
and there's like, that sort of thing. And so anyway, I think that empathy of just being able to grow with somebody who understands, Yeah,
no, I agree with that. Have you heard, a lot of people say marriage is 50-50, and somebody else said, I can't remember who said it, I can't quote it, but it's not 50-50. It's like one day you're 10, I'm 90. One day you're 60, I'm 40. And it just really depends on the day, on what's going on. Because some days you're going to be at a place where you're not at your 50%, or you're going to be below. So then I'm going to pick up the slack for you and just going to be there. Whether it is cleaning the house, making dinner, making phone calls for the team, or taking care of a client, whatever it may be.
So the percentage thing with me, I've thought about this actually a lot. I don't think it's 50-50 or 90-10. I think it's everybody has to do 100%. Everybody has to carry their own weight. So in my family, I would say Lacey's all heart, right? She's the heart. And I would say I'm the brains, right? And not that I'm smarter, because I'm definitely not, but I'm the one that thinks of how are we going to keep this thing moving? How does this all look? And she's the one that just is the nurturing, loves everything that way, right? So I love too, she thinks too, but it's just that part's a little opposite. And if we didn't have the brains, like how far could a body or function without that?
Yeah,
it's not happening. If we didn't have the heart, how far is that going to function without that? And so there is some days that some work harder, but I feel like when people feel like it's 50-50 or 90-10, then I feel like sometimes people feel like they can slack ass for a day or two or a week or a month or even a year. And so then
give me your best.
And just, I think it's 100%. And sometimes just like our bodies, we're not 100%. Sometimes we both run at 60, sometimes you get sick. I feel like that's what it is.
Yeah. And I've heard that before too. It's 100 and 100, right? Like I have 100% of my jobs. You have 100% of your jobs that make 100% of our whole, right? If we're both giving our full, honest best for each other, for the family, for everything, it's going to work out.
And I think that's where people struggle, is because sometimes they're not aligned with somebody else's 100%. Sometimes people are like, man, the house is always this, or my husband's always doing that. And, and I don't feel like they're necessarily aligned that way.
So now I'm not going to do it, right?
Yeah.
Like that happens a bunch, I think, where someone's resentful at doing all of the work.
Yeah.
And then they're like, what do you even do?
Yeah.
Like, but I don't feel that or see that in my own house, but I definitely can see it from a distance when it's in a team setting as a business or something, right? Where you don't even know what it's like to decorate a donut, right? You don't even know what it's like to fill out a RE21 purchase and sale agreement, right? I'm a transaction coordinator, and you're just a buyer's agent that goes and shows houses. Wish I could go out and have lunch with title companies and show houses instead of sit here and do all your crummy paperwork. You know what I mean? Like,
and sometimes you have to like foresee that too. One thing I've learned doing 2 decades of this is sometimes that creeps up there. You know, my wife's been at home for 16 years and she's managed properties and she works from home. And so there were some times that the only conversation she ever had was with a 3 or 4 year old. Right. And so you've got to understand, like, man, I got to get this lady out more because I would go crazy if I was in this situation.
100%.
Or I learned something. I went to this convention and there was this panel of women, and this one lady's like, the best thing if you're out grinding and doing well, they're like, just get a house, keeper to come in just once a week. It doesn't even have to be every week, just every other week, and just to lighten the load off, and for me, I was like, okay. And I did it. And it was like, first of all, she felt terrible.
Yeah.
And then they did it. And then after a while, she's like, this is kind of awesome. And it was like something that I knew that I never wanted to ever remove or take back. But it was just like, just helping that burden, because sometimes being able to go hang out with your friends for 2 or 3 hours a day is like, it's pretty awesome, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes only being able to talk to 3, 4, and 5 year olds all day, or they come home and you're trying to help them structure their afternoon and evening, and then you're running them around, or
That's a lot.
Yeah. So, but
Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to come by today.
You bet.
We've done one. There'll be more to come for sure.
Yeah.
But anything that you want to leave us with today, for any entrepreneur out there, if you can give them one little ounce of your wisdom.
I think you already know what I'm going to say.
Do it.
What you focus on expands.
And I love it.
Yeah.
And
it serves me well.
I would say that too. I think that's true, Brad. And then I would just say, if you have to understand that you are going to have to work 2 to 3 times harder and more for yourself than anybody else. And it's just the way it is. Like, you're not going to be able to, there's no shortcuts. Everybody's tried a shortcut and failed. Everybody's tried,
especially today,
the easy way and failed. And so that's what I'd say.
Get off your ass and go do it.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much. Thanks again for being here. This was The Hustle Behind, episode 1. We'll see you the next one. This is a wrap. Thanks, guys.